He was only 10 years old, alone, hungry, and sitting on the cold pavement of a shopping center. To most people, he was invisible. But when a wealthy couple passed by, everything changed. The woman's words sliced through the air like a knife. "He looks like your dead son." For the millionaire beside her, it was a wound reopened. For the boy, it was the beginning of something no one could have imagined. Was this chance encounter a cruel reminder, or fate's way of rewriting destiny? Alexander Grant had everything a man could want: wealth, power, and the kind of life most only dream of. 5 years ago, however, tragedy shattered it all when cancer took his only son, Ethan. Since then, Alexander had lived in quiet emptiness, pouring himself into business deals and social appearances, masking the grief that never really faded. On a cold December morning, Alexander and his girlfriend, Isabella Clark, strolled through the gleaming parking lot of a high-end shopping center. To outsiders, they looked like the perfect couple, stylish, confident, untouchable. But beneath that polished exterior, their values could not have been further apart. Isabella believed in appearances, status, and exclusivity. She thrived in elite circles where wealth was worshipped and empathy was seen as weakness. Alexander, though hardened by grief, still carried a quiet yearning for meaning, for something human that money could never buy. That morning, fate placed someone unexpected in their path. A small boy sitting alone on the cold concrete, his clothes worn, his eyes alert yet heavy with fatigue. 10-year-old Michael Torres wasn't begging, wasn't crying, just existing, invisible to everyone rushing by. For Alexander, the boy was a reminder of everything he had lost. For Isabella, he was an inconvenience, another nuisance, in a world she believed belonged only to the powerful. Neither of them knew that this moment, the simple presence of a child society had discarded, was about to spark a chain of events that would change all their lives forever. Michael Torres had learned to survive in silence. He didn't beg for coins or shout for help. He simply existed on the margins, doing whatever he could to stay unnoticed. Yet on that morning, in the shadow of luxury cars and polished storefronts, he could no longer remain invisible. Isabella's careless words hung in the air like a cruel echo, and for Alexander, the resemblance was undeniable. Michael's face carried the same innocent glow Ethan once had. The tilt of his smile, the way his eyes seemed older than his years. It was as if time had folded in on itself. Isabella tugged at Alexander's arm, scoffing. To her, the boy was nothing more than a disruption. "People like him only want money," she whispered sharply. "They'll cling to anyone who looks their way." But before Alexander could respond, a scene unfolded that froze him in place. An elderly man dropped a handful of papers onto the wet pavement. Without hesitation, Michael scrambled forward, gathering each page carefully, his small fingers smoothing out the creases before handing them back with a polite nod. He expected nothing in return, no applause, no coins, just a smile of gratitude, and then he quietly stepped back into the cold, wrapping his arms around himself. That single moment stirred something deep within Alexander. His grief-stricken heart, long numbed by wealth and distraction, began to feel again. This boy wasn't a burden. He was proof of dignity in the face of despair. As Alexander approached, Michael's story began to unfold piece by piece. His mother, he revealed softly, had died of cancer. He never knew his father. Nights were often spent on sidewalks or, if lucky, in a temporary shelter. He carried nothing but an old, tattered notebook where he wrote down stories and practiced languages he taught himself: English, Spanish, even French. Alexander flipped through the worn pages, stunned. Each sentence was sharp, each thought brimming with intelligence and hope. The essays were more profound than many he'd read from scholars. Michael's world was one of hunger and cold, yet his mind soared higher than the walls society built around him. Isabella rolled her eyes. "Manipulation," she muttered, dismissing the notebook as a trick to earn sympathy. Her words dripped with disdain, her gaze fixed on Michael as if he were an intruder in her perfect world. The tension between her and Alexander grew heavier with each breath. For Alexander, the choice was no longer about charity, it was about justice. This boy deserved a chance, and dismissing him because of the color of his skin or the poverty on his clothes felt like betraying Ethan's memory. But Isabella's voice grew sharper, colder. It's either me or him. The ultimatum sliced the air, leaving Alexander at a crossroads. Would he continue to shield himself behind Isabella's shallow worldview, or would he step into the unknown, risking ridicule, backlash, even scandal, just to defend a boy the world had already discarded? As Michael shivered in the December air, the decision loomed like a storm. Alexander's heart raced, torn between comfort and conscience. What he chose in the next moment would not only define Michael's future, it would decide his own. And then, with one calm breath, Alexander prepared to answer. The air was thick with silence, broken only by Isabella's icy words. It's either me or him. For Alexander, time seemed to freeze. In front of him stood two worlds: the glittering life of luxury he had built with Isabella, and the fragile, shivering boy who carried the echoes of his son. His chest tightened as memories of Ethan flooded back. The hospital bed, the fading laughter, the helplessness of watching his child slip away. And now here was Michael, sitting in the same December cold, carrying the same spark Ethan once had. It was as if life had offered him one more chance to do what he couldn't before: protect, nurture, save. Isabella's voice grew sharper, demanding, her face twisted with anger. Around them, passers-by glanced curiously, some whispering. Alexander felt the weight of every eye, of society's silent judgment. To choose Michael meant scandal, accusations that he was being manipulated, ridiculed for caring about a street kid. To choose Isabella meant surrendering to a world where empathy was weakness and poverty deserved disdain. Slowly, Alexander looked at her, not with fear, but with clarity. "Then it ends here," he whispered, his voice steady. In that instant, he let go of Isabella's hand. Her gasp of disbelief echoed louder than any slap. He turned to Michael, extending his hand instead. The boy hesitated, wide-eyed, but then placed his small fingers into Alexander's. It was a simple gesture, yet it carried the weight of destiny. As they walked away, Isabella's voice shrieked behind them, venomous and furious, but Alexander didn't look back. For the first time in years, his heart felt alive. He had chosen compassion over cruelty, love over fear. But what neither of them knew was that this decision, the act of a millionaire taking the hand of a homeless black boy, was about to spark a chain of events that would shake both their worlds in ways they could never imagine. At the restaurant, Michael's brilliance unfolded like a hidden treasure. Between bites of food he hadn't tasted in days, he spoke fluent French, explained passages from his notebook, and revealed dreams far bigger than the sidewalk he had slept on the night before. Alexander listened in awe, realizing this boy wasn't just surviving. He was thriving against impossible odds. Fate seemed to intervene again. A Columbia University professor, seated nearby, overheard Michael speaking and was stunned by his command of language. Within weeks, Michael was invited to take a scholarship exam. His performance shattered records, leaving professors speechless. They called him a rare gem, a mind that could reshape the future if only given a chance. For Michael, doors that had been locked by poverty and prejudice suddenly opened wide. Meanwhile, Isabella's disdain for the poor did not remain hidden. At her elite social club, her mocking words, "These beggars are worthless. They'll only steal from you," were caught on video. Within days, the clip went viral. The hashtag elite racism flooded social media. Her career collapsed, her friends distanced themselves, and the world she clung to crumbled. The same arrogance that once gave her power became her downfall. But the story was never about her downfall. It was about Michael's rise. At Columbia, he earned Best Student of the Year, and Alexander established a foundation to support homeless and gifted youth. Standing before a crowd, Michael's voice rang clear. "Maybe your son sent me to you. Maybe I was meant to remind the world that worth is not measured by wealth or skin, but by what we choose to give back." And in that moment, the truth was undeniable. Compassion had rebuilt a broken man's soul. Prejudice had destroyed an empire of privilege, and a boy society ignored became a symbol of resilience and hope. But the question lingers, how many more children like Michael are still out there, unseen, unheard, waiting for someone to believe in them? Because sometimes, justice isn't in the fall of the cruel, it's in the rise of the forgotten. What did you think of Michael's journey, from the cold streets to the brightest halls of Colombia? Do you believe compassion can truly rewrite destiny? If the story moved you, make sure to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more powerful stories that matter.